All right. Good morning, all of you. I hope you are able to hear me. Right. So, yeah, I hope you are doing well. Suprabhat Pritesh. Jai Shri Ram Mohit. Morning, Shreya. Right. Morning, Kirtan. Right. So you can guess this. Obviously, you can guess this. We'll come back to it later. Let us quickly see. I think Ganesh has got it. Very good. So let's quickly revise what we studied last class. Post that, we will start the next topic. Right. So let's answer a recall test based on yesterday. Let's answer this recall test based on yesterday. What do you feel is correct option? This is regarding Brownian motion. I think you remember Brownian motion we had studied yesterday. The cause of Brownian motion is yes. So another 10 seconds, guys. I'm going to close this out. So if you haven't voted, please vote fast. And trust me, there is no confusing options here. The options are pretty clear. All right. So we'll end this on a count of 3, 2, 1 now. Right. So let's end this now. All right. So yes, the correct answer is answered by many of you. Most of you have answered it correctly only. It is C. The correct answer is C. The correct answer is C. I think I had told you that colloidal particles lie in the range of 1 nanometer to 1000 nanometer. Right? That means they can be small, large, they can be of various size. So when dispersion media molecules will go and hit them, this will travel more distance. This will travel less distance. This will travel more distance. So when you connect their paths, you get a zigzag motion. So it is due to unequal collision of colloidal particles by dispersion medium molecules. Right? So impact of molecules of dispersion medium on the colloidal particles is different. It is different. That's why it leads to zigzag path. Okay? I hope it is clear and there is no doubt regarding this. Yes, Chetna. Yes, Pranav, I did. All right. So let's start with the electrical properties you were discussing yesterday. So all of you remember this, right? So can you recall and tell me, although everything is written over here, do you remember the charge on the colloidal particles is due to what? It is due to the colloidal particles carry charge, and this is due to what? This is due to adsorption of the common ion from the electrolyte on the surface of your colloidal particles, correct? So for that, we had taken few examples. I had given you 2 cases. What are those 2 cases? The case 1 is when you treat silver nitrate with Ki, right? So Ag plus will combine with I minus to form AgI. You will get a precipitate initially. Initially, directly you will not get colloidal particles. First, you will get a precipitate only. You'll get a precipitate only. Initially, you'll get a precipitate. What will happen? Now, this precipitate will be converted into colloidal particles. That is by which process? Peptization. Now, peptization will lead to the colloidal particles. Let us see how it happens. Right? If you see this carefully, so then this silver iodide which is formed over here, this silver iodide, since you have taken Ki in excess, will be having K plus and I minus around it. So out of these two ions, AgI will adsorb which ion? Common ion. What is the common ion? I minus. So it will adsorb I minus on its surface. So as soon as the I minus comes on its surface, there will be a negatively charge created on the precipitate. And this negative charge will break the precipitate into small particles. Into small particles. Correct? Known as colloidal particles. Known as colloidal particles. Which process is this? Which process is this? Which process is this? Which I am showing by arrow. Which process is this? This is peptidation. Right? So basically your precipitate which is formed here adsorbs the ions, common ion on its surface, due to which this precipitate dissociate into small particles of colloidal range. Right? Now the colloidal particles will carry negative charge because they have adsorbed I minus on their surface. The second case which you took was, you took AgNO3 in excess. So when you take AgNO3 in excess, you'll again get AgI. But since AgNO3 is present in excess, around AgI you will not have Ki because it is present in less amount. What will be present? Extra amount mein, AgNO3. So around AgI, lot of AgNO3 will be present. So out of Ag plus and NO3 minus, what will be adsorbed by Ag? Ag plus. So Ag plus will be adsorbed on its surface, right? So that it becomes positively charged. Then it will break it into small particles. It will break it into small particles of colloidal range. This is a peptidization process. This is a peptidization process. Now you'll get colloidal particles here. Correct? Is that clear, everyone? I hope this point is clear. This is very important to understand. Now, one more thing which is we need to mention here, right? So all of you, please pay attention to this. I have summarized, I said you last class also, I have summarized all the positively charged and negatively charged colloids here. You need to know them. I'll tell you why you need to know them. Okay, you should know arsenic sulfide is a negatively charged colloid. You should know antimonyl sulfide is a negatively charged colloid. Cadmium sulfide is a negatively charged colloid. You should know them. Correct? Acidic dyes. I think if you remember redox chapter, there you have studied methyl orange, methyl red, then you have studied phenolphthalein. All those are your dyes. Okay? All those are your dyes only. So if you have that dye which has acidic functional group in it, right? COH, SO3H, then it is acidic dye. So Congo red is an example of dye. It is there in your module table also. So Congo red is a dye which is negatively charged because it is acidic dye. All your basic dyes like methylene blue is your positively charged colloid. So methylene blue, all of bio students must be using it there in labs for staining. Methylene blue is used for staining, correct? So methylene blue is a positively charged colloid. Okay? Then you can take proteins in acidic medium. Proteins in acidic medium are positively charged colloid, but proteins in basic medium are negatively charged colloid. Can anybody justify this? Any bio student who can justify this? Why proteins in acidic medium is a positively charged colloid, but proteins in basic medium is a negatively charged colloid? Anybody who is expert in bio? It's an kind of an open challenge. You can accept it. Yes, Pritish is almost near. No problem, Rohit. Aditya. No, Pritish. No, Pranav. Aditi is finally correct. Yes, Aditi, you're right. Yes, Aditi, you're right. Then Ganesh is also right. I'm not sure here that you are not Googling stuff. I trust you people. Chalo, let's see this. If you see carefully, proteins are polymers of amino acids. That is the first thing you should understand, right? So proteins are polymers of amino acid. So what are your amino acid? General formula of amino acid is there is a CH group, there is side chain R. It can be anything. Depending upon side chain, you name amino acid. If it is H, you say glycine. If it is CH3, you say valine, isopropyl, something like. When you keep changing the side chain, different amino acids are obtained. So this amino acid contains two functional groups, COH and NH2. Correct? So NH2 is a basic functional group here, and COH is an acidic functional group. So what do you call such compounds which contain basic as well as acidic functional group? What do you call such compounds which contain basic as well as acidic functional group? Could be Zwitteran, kuch bhi, zeolite, kuch bhi, whatever comes into the head. These bio people ratta maar ke baithe hue hain bas. A species which can donate or accept proton. Okay, let me give you more clearer idea. The species which can donate and accept proton is known as what? It is known as, it's a part of ionic equilibrium actually. It is known as amphiprotic species. Amphiprotic, which can donate as well as accept proton. Amphiprotic, right? Amphoteric are the substances which react with acid as well as base. Amphoteric and amphiprotic are different. These two are different terms. So amphiprotic is the term here. Now what happens when you take up acidic medium? In acidic medium, you will have H+. So NH2 has a lone pair. It will, organic chemistry, it will donate lone pair of electrons to H+, and it will form which bond? If it donate lone pair of electron to NH2, it will form which bond? It will form which bond? Coordinate bond. Very good. So it will donate lone pair to H+, and nitrogen will get a positive charge. Now you got a positively charged colloid. Now this is just one amino acid, right? So this will be, how many times it will be repeated? It will be repeated n times, then you will get protein. Right? 1000 times when you repeat it, you'll get protein. Now what happens in basic medium? In basic medium, COH will lose a proton to give you CO minus. So CO minus will make your protein negatively charged. This also, how many times you'll repeat it? You'll repeat it n times. Polypeptide. Bio students will know it better. Two amino acids are joined together by peptide bond. Okay? Similarly, when you take thousands of amino acids and join them, you'll get a protein. So this is negatively charged colloid. Is that clear? So proteins in acidic medium act as positively charged colloid. Proteins in basic medium act as negatively charged colloid. I hope that is clear, right? So remember these examples, right? Now see here, chromium hydroxide, aluminum hydroxide, iron hydroxide. What is the speciality about these three? Can you recall? What is special about these three? You know it. What is special about these three? Or what is common in these three? All of them, you must have done salt analysis in lab. All these three cations belongs to group 3. They are group 3 cations. Okay? They are group 3 cation, and their valency is also +3, +3, +3. So these are group 3 cations precipitate. Okay? So all of them are positively charged. But I'll tell you one important thing here. I'll tell you one important thing about FeOH3. Let me finish this first. We had studied blood is a colloidal solution. Blood is a colloidal solution. What is the charge on blood? Blood carries what charge? Blood is a negatively charged colloid. Blood is a negatively charged colloid. It has been proved by experiments because the coagulation of blood is caused by Fe3+, potash, alum. In fact, there is a protein called heparin also. I don't remember exact spelling. It is heparin, right, which causes the coagulation of this. So since it is coagulated by positively charged species, right, that means it is attracted by positively charged species. That's why it carries a negative charge. Correct? Is that clear? Yes, heparin is a anticoagulant. Heparin is, I think Meghna has mentioned it very well. Heparin is an anticoagulant. My bio is thoda here and there. I have studied it way back. So I may be not very accurate. So heparin is a protein which prevents the coagulation of blood. Okay? Anticoagulant it is. Okay? So all these ions in your body, Fe3+, potash, alum, fitkiri, right? We in Hindi say it fitkiri. So it prevents, you must have observed barber shop pe, when they cut somewhere, they used to use big stone, right? They used to use big stone called aftershave. What was that aftershave big stone? That was white stone. That was nothing but alum. What does it do? It coagulates your blood. So blood is a colloidal particles like this. Separate colloidal particles. So that alum, when you add after shaving, so what it does, that alum contains Al3+ ion, right? Al3+ or K+ ion. So since blood is negatively charged, Al3+ attracts the blood colloidal particles and bring them close to each other. Al3+ goes and attract all the, so Al3+ goes and attract all the negatively charged colloidal particles towards itself and form a big precipitate. And this big precipitate is known as blood clotting. This is known as blood clotting or coagulation of blood. This is also known as blood clotting or coagulation of blood. You can say any of these two, right? Right? Is that clear, everyone? How hemoglobin is a positively charged colloid. See, hemoglobin is a component of blood. Aditya M. Hemoglobin is a component of blood. You should understand. Hemoglobin contains Fe2+ ion. Okay? Fe2+ ion. It contains Fe2+ ion. Heme is a part of the, heme is a protein part of the blood. Hemoglobin. Heme is a protein. It's a part of the blood. Right? It does not compose your total blood. Right? That stone is nothing but, it's a alum only. Hindi mein to we say fitkiri. Hindi mein we say fitkiri. It burns out all your contaminated blood. Okay? Is that clear, everyone? Pritish, now people are asking, where did you see that in a barber shop? The point here is, you are born in a like timeline where the barber shops are not under some tree, chota mota. You go to saloons like Habib and etc. etc. So there you will not see this. There you will see creams and all those stuff. If you go to villages, you will see a barber with a ustra in hand and a stone in the other hand. So he will cut you, luck, and then if there is a bleeding, he will put that in your chin. So in village, you can see that. Pritesh, in cities, I don't think so. You'll see ever, right? So yeah, the timeline and the place where you are born decides a lot of things, right? So I hope it is clear, right? So basically, see, the thing which you should appreciate a lot is science has been used in past, but it is being explained now. So it's not like alum was not used before. It was used before also. People just saw that it is stopping it, so they started using. But it was explained later. Okay? So that's the concept. Right. Now, what I was trying to say is, yeah, FeOH3. We are saying FeOH3 is positively charged colloid. Right. Now, this also I'll try to explain you. See this carefully. So if you take FeOH3 precipitate, right? Let me give you a peptidization example. It's an example of peptidization we had studied, correct? So remember, there was a FeOH3 precipitate, right? And you added what electrolyte in it? Do you remember? What was the electrolyte you used for peptidization of FeOH3? What was the electrolyte you used? It is red precipitate, Pranav, correct. For the peptidation of this, very good Pritish, it is FeCl3. So in FeCl3, which ions will be adsorbed by FeOH3? Very good, Chirag. Which ion will be adsorbed? Fe3 plus ion. So Fe3 plus ions moves on the surface of FeCl3. And you say FeCl3 becomes a positively charged precipitate. Right? This is what we studied. And we said, look at it carefully. These positive ions will attract this precipitate, and break this precipitate into colloidal particles. This was the process called peptidation, right? So you used to get small FeOH3 with a positive charge on its surface. Positive charge was due to Fe3 plus ion, right? So this is what we have said there also. Positive. So this is what we are saying here. The FeOH3 is positively charged colloid, right? But is it always true? Recently, one of the advanced tests, this question had come. I always teach this every year. Is it always true? No, it's not true. Not always true. This is a case one. Let us say, what happens if I treat FeOH3 precipitate with an electrolyte of NaOH in excess? What happens then? If I treat it with NaOH electrolyte instead of FeCl3, here I was using FeCl3 electrolyte. Now I am using NaOH electrolyte. What will happen? Which ion will get adsorbed? OH minus ions will get adsorbed. Correct? So you will get FeOH3 adsorbing OH minus ions, so it will become negatively charged, right? And when it dissociate, it will dissociate into negatively charged colloidal particles. Is that clear? Right? So whether FeOH3 is always positively charged, that is also a wrong statement, right? So we have mentioned it here, assuming its peptidation has been carried out in the presence of FeCl3. But do not by heart it. That's very important, right? Any doubt in this electrical properties or charge of colloid? Anyone? Any doubt in any of these steps? Anyone? Yes. Any doubt in this? If we take NaCl, it will adsorb nothing basically. It will preferentially adsorb nothing. So that's why usually used electrolytes should be having a common ion, right? During peptidation I am talking about. Okay? Is that clear? Final step is same. If you use NaOH, OH minus will get adsorbed. Same, you get a precipitate adsorb negative ions on its surface. Then your precipitate will be broken down into colloidal particles with a negative charge on its surface. So you'll get a colloidal particles with a negative charge on its surface, and negative charge is due to OH minus ion. Correct? So this is the second step, Aditya, M and Atharv. This is the second step. All right. So now there is one important thing. Before I go ahead, I know most of you will get confused. So let me make it clear. We are talking about common ion in the electrolyte. For which process? For which process you need a common ion? For which process you need a common ion? For peptidation. For peptidation, to create colloidal particles. Okay? Now we have got colloidal particles which have negative charge or which have positive charge. Correct? Now let us say if I want to convert these colloidal particles back into the precipitate, what should I do? If I want to convert these colloidal particles back into the precipitate, what should I do? What is the process? The process, yes, very good. The process of converting colloidal particles back to the precipitate is known as precipitation, or it is also known as coagulation, or you can say it is flocculation. Any of these three terms. Is that clear, everyone? So now let's move ahead. There is a very important thing we need to study called zeta potential. Zeta potential. All of you can start reading it. 50% of this we have already done. There is only small thing we need to add here. I will add that. So addition of silver nitrate excess to Ki. Silver nitrate in excess with Ki will give you which type of precipitate? Positively charged or negatively charged? Yes, zeta is a Greek word. So if you take AgNO3 in excess and treat it with Ki, you'll get AgI colloidal particles with charge, positive charge, because they will absorb Ag plus ion. Okay? In the formation of yellow precipitate of AgI, the AgI then absorbs I minus from the excess of Ki. You have taken Ki in excess. I said AgNO3, sorry. Ki is taken in excess. So since Ki is taken in excess, so AgI formed will absorb I minus from Ki, right? And it will become preferentially adsorption of I minus, it will become negatively charged. The adsorption of I minus break down the precipitate of AgI into colloidal particles, acquiring a negative charge. Correct? Is this point clear? This is same as this, whatever story we had said here, case 1. Same story. Whatever story we have said here, same story. This story only. Is that clear, everyone? So you'll get a negatively charged colloidal particles. Now let us come back. Let us represent it first. So let us represent it first. So you say you have a AgI colloidal particles. You have AgI colloidal particles. In the beaker you had, let us say Ki, right? From Ki, what ion was adsorbed? I minus, I minus, I minus, I minus. Or let me write it on the other side first. So I minus was adsorbed. So due to I minus, it will get what charge? Negatively charged. Correct? Now this layer of negative charge, is known as fixed layer. You can say fixed layer. Fixed layer, or you can say it is also known as Helmholtz layer. Right? This is called fixed layer or Helmholtz layer. Right? Now to counter this negative charge, around this negative charge, the K plus ions will come and get arranged, right? So that it will become like this. So the positively charged ions will come and arrange around your negatively charged ion, so that you will observe a layer of negative charge, a layer of positive charge. And this, now tell me one thing clearly, which layer will be able to move easily? Negatively charged layer of ions or positively charged layer of ions? Which will be able to move easily? Which layer will be able to move easily? Positive or negative? Some of you have answers are equally distributed. So I would say the answer is beta, positively charged layer will move easily. It will move easily. Why? Because negatively charged layer is attached to the surface. It is adsorbed on the surface. So if it is adsorbed on the surface, can it move? No, it is fixed. But positively charged layer, it is not attached on the surface. It is around the negative charge. So it can move around the negative charge. Since it can move, it is known as mobile or diffused layer. Diffused layer. So there are two layers. One is fixed or Helmholtz layer, which is formed by adsorption of negatively charged ion. Around this negatively charged ion, positive charged ions will arrange themselves, and these positive ions make a mobile or diffuse layer. Now, the potential difference between the positively charged layer and negatively charged layer is known as zeta potential, right? So this potential is, let's say this is A point, this is B point. So VA minus VB is your phi, and this phi is your zeta potential. So zeta potential, if you define, it is the difference between the potential of fixed layer and mobile layer in a Helmholtz double layer concept. Okay? Is that clear? So potential difference between fixed layer and mobile layer is known as zeta potential, right? It happens in all the cases wherever the charge is formed on collide. Now, in another way, how can you define it in another way? In other way, you can define it by saying how much potential should be applied to separate these two layers. That is also defined as zeta potential. Both are the definition of zeta potential. Is that clear, everyone? So the definition says the potential difference between the diffuse layer and the fixed layer is known as zeta potential. This is a 1 mark question for boards also. 1 mark question for boards also. It is called zeta potential, or its other name is electrokinetic potential. Electrokinetic potential. Yes. Is that clear, everyone? Yes. Is that clear? Right. So I have one more diagram to show it better way. If positively charged layer is diffused, then how the electric potentials. It is diffused means momentarily it is diffused, but for some time there will be for moment of time they'll be there, no? For instantaneous time they'll be there. So this potential is also instantaneous potential. So you can see here, this is your colloidal particle, negatively charged colloidal particle. It has absorbed what ions on its surface? Positive ions on its surface, right? They are attached to the particles. Now, when you do that, the negatively charged ions will move around it. The negatively charged ions, you can see here, will move around it. So this layer are strongly, positively charged ions are strongly bound to the surface, correct? Right? And this ions, the ions which will lie here, negatively charged ions which will lie here, are diffuse layer of ions loosely attached. So the potential difference between the loosely attached layer and the fixed layer is known as zeta potential. It is known as zeta potential. It is different for different type of colloidal particles. It will never be same for all colloidal particles, depending upon what is the charge absorbed, how much charge is absorbed, etc. etc. Okay? Is that clear? The definition of zeta potential, is it clear to everyone? Is the definition of zeta potential clear? Right. Now the next term we are moving towards is, after zeta potential, we are moving towards electrophoresis. This is also used in biology. This is also used in biology. How to say this? In fact, this concept of zeta potential also comes in biology. Now I'm just recalling where it comes. It also comes in biology, right? Gradient of potential is mentioned somewhere. I'll recall and tell you. Okay? What is slipping plane? The slipping plane is basically this plane, right? Where, see, negative ions will be present here also. Will you consider them as your diffuse layer? No. The ion should come in at least in some region. So this is the region which they should cross. This is the plane which they should slip in, so that they can become a part of diffuse layer. So the negatively charged ion present here is not a part of diffuse layer. This is not a part of diffuse layer. So if this ion slips into this plane and comes here, then it is a part of your diffuse layer, right? Or you can say it's a boundary, or you can say it is a last point where you can have a diffuse layer. Is that clear, Abhishek? Abhishek H. right? Is that clear now? All right. So the next thing we need to study is electrophoresis. It is used for separation of proteins and amino acids. Because proteins and amino acids can be any charge, positively charged or negatively charged. It is used for their separation also. The concept is pretty easy. The same thing which you have done in electrolytic cells. You take a electrode, connect it to the negative terminal of the battery. Take a electrode, connect it to the negative terminal of the battery. So it is connected to negative terminal of the battery. So it is cathode. This electrode is connected to positive terminal of the battery. So it is anode. Correct? Now, in general, your electrolyte solution. What is your electrolyte solution here? You have colloidal particles. You have colloidal particles. You have colloidal particles. So now, if your colloidal particles are negatively charged, they will move towards anode. If your colloidal particles are positively charged, they will move towards cathode. This is also one experiment which decides that colloidal particles are charged. Because when you supplied electricity, some particles were moving towards cathode, saying they are positively charged. Some particles were moving towards anode, indicating they are negatively charged. So this also proves colloidal particles have charge. Right? Now, what is the definition? It is also 1 mark question in your boards. This definition also comes for 1 mark in your boards. It also comes for 1 mark in your boards. Now, what's the definition you are going to write? The movement of colloidal particles towards their respective electrodes in the presence of electric field is known as electrophoresis. Electrophoresis. This is also known as cataphoresis. This is also known as cataphoresis. So, electrophoresis is movement of colloidal particles towards their respective electrodes. Respective electrode means if negatively charged, they'll move towards positive electrode. If they're positively charged, they'll move towards negative electrode. So movement of colloidal particles towards their electrode when you supply electricity is known as electrophoresis. Right? This helps in determining the charge present on the colloid. Obviously, I said you, if colloid is moving towards anode, it is negatively charged. If colloid is moving towards cathode, it is positively charged. Right? This is kind of similar to electrodialysis. Kind of similar to electrodialysis, you can say that. Right? But there you had a dialysis bag, right? That kind of setup. Here you are directly moving your colloidal particles. Correct? Now, I am not muted, Dhanush. Right. So what I was trying to say here is, so this is your electrophoresis. I hope it is clear. There is no much things to know in this. Let's move towards the next definition. That is coagulation. This is the most important topic for your JEE, NEET, every exam. And it's a very easy topic. Let me tell you, every year, you can go home and check 2018, 2019. Almost every paper may you'll see question from this. And very easy concept. So all of you know the definition of coagulation by now, correct? Right? All of you know the definition of coagulation by now, right? Now in this, okay, this is your previous slide, Aditya. Aditya, this is your previous slide. I hope it is done. Aditya, done? Right. So here coagulation, when you talk about what is electroosmosis, see, when your solvent molecules move, then it is osmosis, correct? When your particles are moving, colloidal, if your dispersion medium is only moving, if you, in your solution, you have colloidal particles plus dispersion medium, both may be charged. If your only dispersion medium is moving under the influence of electricity, then you say it is electroosmosis. But if your colloidal particles are moving under the influence of electric field, then you say it is electrophoresis. Is that clear, Chandan? The difference is, in one case solvent molecules move, other case colloidal particles move, right? That's the only difference. Now coming to coagulation, the definition is very clear. The process of forming aggregate, or you can say the process of forming precipitate, the process of forming precipitate or aggregate from colloidal particles by the addition of suitable electrolyte. Very important, very, very important. In peptidation, you take a precipitate. Precipitate was not having any charge. You add an electrolyte, precipitate absorbs a common ion and gets charged. And then it gives you colloidal particles which are having charge. Correct? Whereas, so this was your precipitate, negatively charged ions it absorbed, so it gave you colloidal particles which are negatively charged. You got this. But now when you convert colloidal particles to precipitate, colloidal particles are charged. Correct? Now think about it carefully. If they are negatively charged, which ions can bring them close to each other? Which ions can bring them close to each other? Can they by themselves come close to each other? No, because both of them carry same charge. So which ions can bring them close to each other? Positive ion. If you keep a positive ion here of the electrolyte, it will attract these two ions together and bring all the negative ions together to form a precipitate. That's why we have written suitable electrolyte. Okay? That's the need of electrolyte. Now, addition of electrolyte to a lyophobic colloid results in coagulation. You have already seen lyophobic colloids are not stable. So coagulation is done for which colloid? Lyophobic colloid, because they are unstable. Why they are unstable? We had told why they are unstable. They are unstable because they carry charge. They carry charge. Therefore, they are unstable. One more thing I told you, lyophilic was stable. Why lyophilic was stable? Why lyophilic was stable? Anybody? Why lyophilic was stable? It does not carry charge, first of all. The other thing was, lyophilic means liquid loving. So if there is a colloidal particles, there will be lot of solvent or liquid molecules around it. Right? Lot of liquid molecules around it. It is heavily hydrated. It is heavily hydrated. And if it is hydrated, it will not allow any ions to get adsorbed on its surface. Correct? So since the solvent molecules are there, adsorption of ions cannot take place. That's why it is not charged. That's why if you add any electrolyte to it, that electrolyte cannot attract this colloidal particles. Okay? Because it does not carry charge. So coagulation of lyophilic cannot be carried out. Correct? That's very important things to note here. At lower concentration of electrolyte, aggregation of particles is called flocculation. Very, 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 see, coagulation, flocculation, everywhere it is mentioned same. It is actually same. There's a colloidal particles, add electrolyte to it. Electrolyte will bring colloidal particles together and form a big precipitate. This is a process. But when you do the same process with very small amount of electrolyte, then it is called flocculation. And if the electrolyte amount is more, then it's a general term called coagulation. Okay? That is the only difference. They differ in the amount of electrolyte you use. Okay? The other difference is flocculation means since you are adding small amount of electrolyte, it is reversible. Right? That means you have converted your precipitate, colloidal particles to precipitate. You can again convert your precipitate to colloidal particles if you use small amount of electrolyte. And then that process is flocculation. But if you have added lot of electrolyte to colloidal particles, lot of electrolyte, then your precipitate cannot be converted back to colloidal particles. Okay? Is that clear? Yes, Ravi Kiran, you are right. So flocculation is reversible, whereas coagulation is not reversible. So this is the basic definition of coagulation, right? Differences, it's a very basic difference. There is no understandable kind of difference. Colloidal particles, if you add small amount of electrolyte, it is flocculation, right? It will not carry coagulation to very high levels. Okay? And if you add lot of electrolyte to it, then all colloidal particles will be converted into precipitate. Then it is your coagulation. When you add small amount of electrolyte, then colloidal particles to precipitate will not be too much. The reaction will not be too much because you have added only small amount of electrolyte. Therefore, your precipitate can be converted back to the colloidal particles. That means flocculation is reversible. But if your colloidal particles mean you add lot of electrolyte, your colloidal particles will get converted into precipitate. Okay? Permanently. Then you cannot reverse it. Correct? Right. So, yeah. Lyophilic is stable. Gagan, lyophilic is stable because they are liquid loving. Lyophilic means liquid loving. So lyophilic colloids absorb lot of water molecules on its surface or liquid molecules on its surface. If there is lot of liquid molecules, colloidal particles are charged due to adsorbed ions. So then that means this colloidal particle cannot absorb any ions on its surface. Okay, because there is already water sitting on its surface. So since there is no adsorption of ions possible, therefore it is not charged. If it is not charged, you cannot add electrolyte to it and cause its coagulation. Okay? Is that clear? Definition. Definition is pretty easy. Colloidal particles, I want to convert them into precipitate. The process of precipitation. Once I add some electrolyte to it, so conversion of colloidal particles to precipitate by the addition of electrolyte is known as coagulation. That's all. Right? That's all. The definition is that much only. Is that clear? Somebody was asking. KV Chetan, is the definition clear now? Conversion of, beta, this I have explained third or fourth time. Previously also I explained you what is coagulation. Just don't get confused. Coagulation is nothing but precipitation. Simple. Precipitation is coagulation. That means colloidal particles to big precipitate. Peptidation is reverse. That's all. Okay? So don't get confused in this. Now, electrolyte is responsible for both coagulation and peptidation. Without electrolyte, none of these two processes can take place. Now, my simple question to summarize this is, why, or in other way, which type of colloid can be coagulated by adding electrolyte and why? Which type of colloid can be coagulated by adding electrolyte and why? That's a simple question which will summarize all this. Which colloid can be coagulated by adding small amount or any amount of electrolyte and why? Correct? That's the question. So your answers are very good. I think most of you are right. Yes. So lyophobic colloid can be coagulated because they are unstable. Why they are unstable? They are unstable because they do not carry charge. They carry charge. So charge makes them unstable. Correct? I think most of you have answered it correctly. Very good. Okay? Now, I hope the definition of coagulation is clear to everyone. I hope the definition of coagulation is clear to everyone. Right? Now comes the most important topic of this chapter. Correct? Yes, Ketan is actually very right. Ketan has given the most appropriate answer, which I was expecting actually. So it's not about lyophilic and lyophobic. Lyophilic can also be coagulated. Lyophilic can also be coagulated if you can put some ions on its surface. So if you heat it, I'll tell you, if you heat it, what will happen? All water molecules will be gone. Now colloid will be empty. Now you can add any electrolyte. It will get coagulated. So the answer is any electrolyte which is charged any electrolyte which is charged can be coagulated. Okay? So Kirtan had given the most appropriate answer. Very good, Kirtan. Now this is a very important one. Hardy-Schulze law. This will come in your boards and CET also. It will come everywhere. Boards plus CET plus your NEET plus your JEE main. Everywhere. Okay? Let us see what it means. Right? Let us see what it means. If my colloidal particles are negatively charged, if my colloidal particles contain negative charge, which ions can coagulate them? You know it. If colloidal particles are negatively charged, electrolyte, which ion can coagulate them? Very good. Positively charged. Because colloidal particles are small separated. So if they are negatively charged, to convert them into precipitate, you have to bring them together. So if they are negatively charged, which ion will attract them? Negatively charged which ion will attract them? Positively charged. Right? So that is what Hardy-Schulze law says. It says effective ions of the electrolyte in bringing out the coagulation are those which carry charge opposite to that of colloidal particles. That means the ions which contain or which carry opposite charge of colloidal particles will be responsible for coagulation. The ions which carry opposite charge as of the ions which carry electrolyte ka that ion which carry opposite charge that of colloidal particles will cause coagulation. For example, if your colloidal particles are positively charged, you have added electrolyte to it. Electrolyte contains positive ion as well as negative ion. So out of these two ions, which will be responsible for coagulation of this colloid? Negative ion. And if your colloidal particle contains negative charge, electrolyte can have positive charge as well as negative charge. So in this case, which ion of electrolyte will be responsible? Positively ion. Correct? Right or no? If I give you example, FeOH3. FeOH3. It is a positively charged colloid or negatively charged colloid? FeOH3 is a positively charged colloid or negatively charged colloid? Depends, but generally depends. Correct? Generally it is, until and unless it is mentioned, it is positively charged colloid. Correct? So if I add it in NaCl, correct? In NaCl, which ion will be responsible for coagulation of FeOH3? Which ion will cause the coagulation of FeOH3? Yes. So since it contains positive charge, NaCl ka negative ion, that means Cl minus, will cause the coagulation of FeOH3 to form a big precipitate, right? With a negative charge on its surface, Cl minus. Correct? This is the meaning of the first statement. Second point here is, if I add NaCl and Na2SO4, who will cause more coagulation? NaCl and Na2SO4, who will cause more coagulation? So the rule says, Ravi Kiran beta, for coagulation the common ion is not necessary. Common ion is necessary for peptidation, Ravi Kiran. You forgot. Correct? You forgot. So let us see. Now the second rule says, coagulating power of the ion increases as the charge on the ion increases. Right? So you can say coagulating power of the ion is directly proportional to charge of the ion. Right? So here your coagulating ion is Cl minus, and here your coagulating ion is SO4 2 minus, anion. So it has -1 charge, it has -2 charge. More is charge, more is coagulating power. So who will cause more coagulation? Na2SO4 causes more coagulation. So who can cause coagulation effectively or better? Na2SO4 causes coagulation better. So if you want to write, you will write Na2SO4 causes more coagulation. Now listen to the question I'm asking carefully. Listen to the question I'm going to ask carefully. Coagulation. Now the question is, for the coagulation of FeOH3, you require X ml of NaCl. And how much ml of Na2SO4? Y ml of Na2SO4. Can you tell me which will be more value, XML or YML? Or in other words, which will be required in more amount? NaCl will be required in more amount, or Na2SO4 will be required in more amount? NaCl will be required in more amount because its efficiency is less. So if NaCl ka efficiency is less, you need to add more electrolyte, right? You need to add more electrolyte. So obviously X will be greater than Y. Correct? And this is our next topic also. How much NaCl you are adding to carry out the coagulation of FeOH3 is known as coagulation value. Is known as coagulation value. How much electrolyte is required to cause the coagulation is known as coagulation value. So here XML is coagulation value of NaCl, YML is coagulation value of Na2SO4. Is that clear? Everyone, is that clear? Any doubt in the two statements of Hardy-Schulze law? I am telling you, you'll 99.9% you'll get question from this. Matlab, isse connected, there are 2-3 more topics, we'll discuss it. First, if it is clear, please let me know. I'll move ahead. Sprite. Chalo, good. Very good. So now, I have kept a question here. You can see, I have brought a previous year question only. It's a PMT Kerala 2008. But the medical students, I would suggest you to solve Kerala PMT questions. Again, I'm saying they are good. They are good for your NEET. Right? You can see it carefully. First point is simple, beta, Naren. If the colloidal particle is negatively charged, then cation will be responsible for its coagulation. If colloidal particle is positively charged, then anion will cause its coagulation. Opposite charge ion of the electrolyte will cause coagulation. So electrolyte having opposite charge that of colloid should cause the coagulation. Okay? Now see this. Chandan will come to that later. We have to discuss coagulation value. We'll come to that later. I will give you the options. Yes. You can start voting now. In an electric field, the particles of the colloidal system move towards cathode. Very good. That's the beautiful part about Kerala PMT. They do not give the questions directly. They give you indirect hint. Now there are two concepts involved here. Electrophoresis as well as coagulation. So your colloidal particles move towards cathode. You have to decide the charge on colloidal particles. Then coagulation of the same colloid is studied using K2SO4, Na3PO4 and this and this. What is the coagulating power should be? Which will have more coagulating power? 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 I think many of you have started answering also. That's quite good. And there are only two options. If you see one option carefully, two you can rule out. Right. So quickly answer it, guys. This is a very important question for CET, JEE, NEET, everything. CET, JEE, NEET, everything it comes. Athar, I got your answer. Dhanush, Ravikiran, I have got your answers. Kerala PMT always asks 5 options, but to make it easy for you, I'm telling you the option E is wrong. So don't worry about E. Option E is wrong, Aditya. Option E is wrong. Keeta, check again. Chalo. Let's end this, guys. So we are going to end this on account of 3. Vishal, beta again. Let's end this on a count of 3, 2, 1. Now we are ending it now. I hope you have answered. Just a minute, beta. 1 minute. Chetan, 1 minute. Right. So here we go. So most of you have answered for B, right? Let us see now how we approach this. I think most of you have got it correct. See, first hint is it moves towards cathode. So cathode contains negative charge. Cathode contains negative charge. If colloidal particles move towards cathode, they move towards cathode. That means they carry what charge? Positive charge. If colloidal particles carry positive charge, which ion of electrolyte will be responsible for coagulation? Opposite ion. So if colloidal particles carry positive charge, negative ion is responsible for coagulation. Right? Correct? So I will write the negative ions of all the electrolyte. So K2SO4 may you have SO4 2 minus, first one. In Na3PO4, you can cross multiply these charges. You'll get Na plus 1 and PO4 minus 3. Second. And in K4FeCN6 also, K is plus 1. 4 will go here, minus 4. This whole is your anion. So you'll get FeCN6 minus 4. Right? This is your third. And NaCl may Na plus and Cl minus. Cl minus is your fourth. So now you have identified that the anion is responsible for coagulation. Hardy-Sulzay, first law over. Second law, more coagulating power is directly proportional to charge. More is charge, more is the coagulating power. So if you see that charge is maximum in 3, so 3 will be having more coagulating power, minus 4. Then comes 2. Then comes minus 2, that is 1. Then comes minus 1, that is 4. So your answer will be 3, 2, 1, 4. That is the correct option is B. So most of you have got it correctly. Very good. So I hope this law and this rule is clear to everyone. Right? All right. So now, this is one you can try it as homework since you have understood it. See, even IIT may, you see, even IIT may the question was asked directly. 2009 may the question was asked directly. Antimony sulfide is what charge colloid? Antimony sulfide is what charge colloid? I had told you the table, right? It is negatively charged colloid. But check the cations. Check the cations, whichever has more charge. Finished. So in IIT also it is asked directly, but PMT may they give you indirectly hint first. They give you the hint first. Ki haan, it is getting attracted. So PMT is next level. Kerala PMT is different only. Now there are two definitions we need to learn. The only part where you can get good questions on and good numericals on is this. Okay? So coagulation value, I had already told you how much electrolyte you need to add to carry out the coagulation. Simple words mein, how much electrolyte should I add to cause the coagulation? Correct? See carefully. The minimum concentration of electrolyte, how much minimum amount of electrolyte which is required to cause the coagulation of 1 liter colloidal solution. If I take 1 liter colloidal solution, how much electrolyte should I add to it to cause the coagulation? The only two things are the amount of electrolyte should be measured in millimoles and the amount of colloidal solution should be measured in liter. That's the only difference. Colloidal solution should be measured in liter and electrolyte you are adding should be measured in millimoles. That means how much millimoles should I add to cause the coagulation of 1 liter colloidal solution? I'll give you example. By a numerical. For 10 ml FeOH3, 1 mole of FeCl3 was required. This is given. You have to calculate the coagulation value. How to calculate coagulation value? For 10 ml, you require how much mole? 1 mole. So 10 ml ke liye you require, just a minute. For 10 ml, you require 1 mole. Correct? For 1 liter means 1000. Correct? So for 10 ml is this much. 1 ml will be 1 by 10 mole. For 1000 ml, it will be how much? 1000 by 10 mole. That means how much? It will be how much? 100 mole. 100 mole, but you need in millimoles. So 100 mole will be how much? 100 into 10 power minus 3 millimole. Sorry, 100 into 10 power plus 3 millimole. 10 power plus 3 millimole. That means your answer is 10 power 5 millimole. So your coagulation value is 10 power 5. Correct? Your coagulation value is 10 power 5. So this is how you find coagulation value. Just two things are important. Electrolyte should be in millimole and colloidal solution should be in liter. Is that clear, everyone? Yes. Is that clear? The definition of coagulation value? Now, important, very important. The question which is asked. Coagulation value is also known as flocculation value. You should know. It is also known as flocculation value. Now the question which will be asked will be coagulating power and coagulation value. What is the relation? They are directly related or inversely related? Coagulation value is more means coagulating power of that electrolyte is high or low? Coagulation value is more means coagulating power of that electrolyte is high or low? Low. Very good. So coagulating power is inversely proportional to coagulation value. Now what question will come? They will give you coagulation value of 4 electrolytes. They will ask you which is the strongest electrolyte for carrying out the coagulation. So remember, they are inversely proportional. Very important. Now what is gold number? Gold number is a term used in colloidal chemistry. It is defined as, now you know there are 2 colloids, lyophobic, lyophilic. Lyophobic is unstable because they carry charge. Lyophilic is stable because they do not carry charge. If I want to protect lyophobic colloid from coagulation, I should add lyophilic colloid on its surface so that I can protect my lyophobic colloid. So if I add lyophilic colloid on its surface, then I can protect my lyophobic colloid. Then what is gold number? To protect a given amount of lyophobic colloid, how much lyophilic colloid you should add, that is your gold. Correct? So yeah, we'll continue this in next class, right? Tomorrow we'll finish this chapter. We are almost done in this chapter. We might start a new chapter also tomorrow. So tomorrow, what we'll do is, tomorrow what we are going to do, we'll do a problem solving session on chemical kinetics. You can revise it and come. Tomorrow there will be a problem solving session on chemical kinetics because you have a test this Sunday. And timing of this will be 1 hour. Okay? Timing will be 1 hour. 15 minutes, we will finish whatever is left. Only applications is left, we'll finish it off. Okay? So tomorrow's schedule is 15 minutes, we will finish the remaining chapter. And 1 hour mein we will finish chemical kinetics ka problem solving session. Like today's quiz is an interesting one. I don't know whether you guys will be knowing or not. So please read this carefully. Yeah. In case the text is not visible, I'll read it out for you. He won the Nobel Prize in 1954 for chemistry, and the Nobel Prize is in peace in 1962. Identify the genius. Next chapter will be started on Friday. Shahana, next chapter will be started on Friday. I think we'll start with D and F block. Let's see. We are moving towards organic after coordination. I will start organic after 2 chapters, Pritesh. D and F block and coordination, because they are important. Colloids from, I did not understand, Meghna. Yes. So Vismay has answered it. This is a very important one. This is Linus Pauling. This is Linus Pauling. Very good. Linus Pauling, you must have studied in Pauling's scale of electronegativity, right? Then in chemical bonding, he gave theories of chemical bonding, Linus Pauling. So he was protesting against the USA for testing nuclear weapons. So for that, he was given Nobel Prize for Peace. Okay? So, right. So that's all for today. So it cannot be John F. Kennedy. He won Nobel Prize in chemistry. How can John F. Kennedy won a Nobel Prize in chemistry? He's a USA, obviously USA. Linus Pauling, USA. Right. That's all for today. Thank you all for joining in. Meghna, I did not get your doubt though. So tomorrow, chemical kinetics problem solving session. Colloids, surface chemistry in your test. Surface chemistry in test. Surface chemistry in test on Sunday is till catalyst. Till catalysis. Till catalysis only. Colloid is not a part of your test. Right? Colloid is not a part of your test. Rajkumar, last slide, beta. Just a minute. What was our last slide? Yes. This was our last slide, Rajkumar. I know Vidyadhar, beta. I saw pura tournament. Chandan, I saw pura tournament. I know he was a medium pace bowler. To be honest, he was a decent bowler. Not a very good, but decent one. Rohit, message me, beta. I'll talk to you on chat. Rohit, message me on WhatsApp. I'll talk to you on chat. Okay? Tomorrow is Thursday. No, tomorrow is Friday. So tomorrow I am not starting any chapter. Friday I'll start a new. Saturday I'll start a new chapter. I'll start a new chapter on Saturday. Tomorrow there is only a chemical kinetics problem solving session. That I don't know, Chandan. What is colloidal power? Colloidal power is the tendency of a colloid to cause coagulation, Prashant. There is no definition, no values for it. Chalo, let's end this off. Because Kerala is weird, that's what I can say, but the Kerala is more organized also, I can say. Basan, coagulating power is inversely proportional to coagulation value. Coagulation value more means you have to add more electrolyte to cause the coagulation. Why are you adding more electrolyte? Because your electrolyte is not good. It is not efficient. That's why you have to add more electrolyte. So coagulation value is more means you have to add more electrolyte. You are adding more electrolyte because your efficiency of electrolyte is less. That's why its coagulating power is less. Okay? Yes, Atharva, I know. Chalo, let's end this, guys. Bye, all of you. Take care. I got to go for the next class. Enjoy, all of you.